That's Matthew Lanz' parents, Scott and Teresa Lanz.
Who's on the right, who's on the left?
Teresa's on the left and Scott is on the right.
Now, for the record, I'm going to start state exhibit 466 at 9:12 and 50 seconds p.m.
Matthew was found in people's houses down in Springs. When an officer showed up in someone's house, they pulled out a knife and stabbed Sandy Springs officer. Sandy Springs officer expected to survive. Matthew was shot in his voice that he's fine. He was treated at a hospital. He's expected to make a full recovery. But I just want to let you know that now, okay? You want me to give you a minute? Step out, go ahead, go. Homicide happened, and that you see that someone's home with a weapon, and for the police officer, it obviously raised our suspicion that he makes us one.
You're sure it's Matthew?
Yeah, there it is.
Do you have ID on him, his name?
Yeah, when we reviewed the body cam and all that stuff, it was in someone's house, more than one house down there in St. Springs. We showed up and tried to talk to him, and he put that knife and stabbed us in the back of the head. He has the gun. Well, we just saw him around the house. We went down there to meet the St. Springs detectives to try to figure out what was going on in my head. Sorry.
I cannot. I can't believe it. I'm sick.
Not that we need a minute to talk among yourself, or you just need 5 or 10 minutes before.
Well, they came to our house, treated me like a criminal. They brought me outside and put my hands behind my back. They ripped me.
The police that came to your house?
Yes. You have a weapon?
That's it. I just had that. back up on step. When they were younger, I don't remember if I bought or who bought it, but we have one left, and then we used to do a range and shoot. The long gun, I don't remember what it is. And then they purchased 2 handguns, separate, like 4 together or something. I never really got a true story out of that. And after all this incident, we found them.
We didn't even know they were in town.
We never had any idea. And that, I mean, appreciate it a little bit. When I said, like, we never had before. I never knew anything about that. We never knew anything about it. We're not here to judge Matthew. Because we just trying to get answers. We want to use it as self-background. I don't know what the ghosts are now locked up in a safe. We bought a safe after we took them away. Put them in a safe, did them in the closet. Matthew always asks about his guns. Don't worry about you guys, you're not getting them back. Maybe one day I'll go with you, but not right now, because I'm just not a gun person at all. I saw him every week. He'd come home when I go to Athens, and we'd like, oh, and everything I do, it was going to be tough with his brother's loss. We knew he had something going on in his head that we couldn't figure out. We couldn't figure out Austin either. We thought we were doing the right thing. I don't know if we will. But Matthew wasn't right. We were going to pull him out of this. We were going to bring him back home, let him go local, be around him more, and he didn't want to do that. He said, I'm fine. So he's got some issues. After all the malarkey, he went out and bought a gun. He told us October.
Yeah, what we didn't know this until yesterday.
Well, we went to see him. There was a gun at the park. We said, what is this? Where did you get this? I bought it at Athens gun store.
Gun range.
Whatever, I don't freaking remember. And I said, well, you can't have this. He said, Dad, it's personal property, it's mine, he's defiant, he doesn't like law, he doesn't like
He
rules.
needs to protect himself. For some reason,
There's a fear that somebody's out to get him.
with this. He said, that's what he says every time we say, why do you think you need something to protect yourself? Because everybody should have something to protect themselves.
We have guns up, private hands, we never had I took the gun back to our house, and I just showed that old post where they were listening more than the back players. And, there's a kind of, my guess is, I don't know.
But, I mean, the reason we went to Athens yesterday, I went first, because after we found out about the neighbors, I started trying to call him, to tell him before he saw it or heard it, and he wasn't answering his phone. And I continued to text him and call him.
Right now, go straight to voicemail, or?
And I think that it was showing blue yesterday. Today it's been showing green. I think I texted him twice and called him maybe a couple of times. And it was just green, so I assumed it was either dead or off. But yesterday it was blue. And so I probably got there about 2:30 or so, and I unlocked the door, and the chain was on. And I was, yelling through the door, because I could see his bedroom door was closed. And I kept saying, Matthew, come to the door. And I waited and waited. And so I kept trying to push the chain just to break it. And about the time that I finally got it to unscrew out of the wall, he walked out of his bedroom. And the gun was right by the bed. And I said, what is this? He said, well, I thought somebody was breaking into the apartment. And think that I was screaming McAdoo's mom. And, you know, this is 2:30 in the afternoon, and he's in bed when he's in bed when he's supposed to be in class.
We all have a gun. I haven't been here. If you're a guy, that's a gun. You know, how they're now, how they got that license. Oh, exactly where I put it. Like I said, I really not having secrets.
But that is why we were there yesterday, because I was concerned that I could be in touch with him, and I wanted to tell him about what happened.
Did you have any suspicions?
I had there was no working Wednesday night or whenever that occurred, was Wednesday night? Yes. Wednesday night, my dogs bark at everything. I mean, they bark when I go outside, I can't find anything. We didn't hear a sound. And so I have no idea what happened. If he was there, he was not in the house.
Not in our house.
Not in our house.
No, not just mine, that's information. When you heard about what happened here, your neighbor's house, was there any suspicion that Matthew is involved?
I would never, I've never even met many people. Never even met him. And Matthew knew that the other people moved out long ago. It never occurred to me that he had anything to do with this.
The reason we asked him, when we talked to Matthew, he said that you asked him if he killed him.
Well,
Here's, let me back up. I see some regarding like trying to keep the spirits up, I don't know, we're gonna do something, blah, blah, blah. He called me Tuesday night. I spoke to him Tuesday night. How you doing, buddy? I said, okay, I'm school. What are you doing? He said, I was at the gas station filling up my car. Filling up his car. And he was going to come home with his computer. And I said, great, you pick me up at the airport tomorrow, which was Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday, I talked to him. Pick me up at the airport at 6 o'clock. Yes. He said the meeting was going home. She knew not to go out and be home. He never came in the house. If he came home, he did unlock the doors. We don't even know. I don't even know if he ever came home. He told us that he went home, but never went to the house. That's exactly what he told us, and that's what I said. The next day, when this occurred, I said, Teresa, I'm just nervous. Matthew told me he was coming home. Maybe he didn't come home, but we ought to call and see what's up with him.
You saw him, you go out to him to the apartment.
Yeah.
so my dog picking up from the airport.
Whoever somebody that always picks me up.
So I tried to get him to come back home with me, and he said, no, I don't need to come home.
It's like,
Yes,
he had it for a while.
yes, it was in August.
I said, you've been over there multiple times,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
How does it usually happen? Normally, it's state of chaos.
It's always very neat and clean and orderly.
When you saw him, I guess that was Thursday, or some Thursday, was he drunk? Was he?
He was not drunk.
How did it, was he saying weird things? He always says weird things. So
When
he wouldn't say weird things. What he was just really, well, how he said it was just really.
when he got up at 2:30 in the afternoon, you could tell he had been sleeping very hard because, you know, his eyes were swollen and he was kind of disoriented at first. And I said, what are you doing in bed? Why aren't you in class? And he said, I was just really tired. And I said, why are you so tired? I can't remember what he said. But I probably said, Daddy said you were coming home. I said, well, you weren't at home. I said, what is just not quite, it was later on, you know, after I'd been there for quite a while before Scott came, he was more alert and talking, you know, more clearly.
Did he ever give you actual yes or no response about the asking that question?
He said, I did not murder anybody.
So other than him kind of sleeping, like, is that unusual from the 6 to 30 years now? We should watch him on the weekend, we should try to have your classes going. How about we say that you're out the weekend?
Yeah. Not that late, no.
So, it's a little unusual from the sleeping late. You look tired, you look up, everything in the apartment seems normal.
Yeah.
Who actually did the you wouldn't hear from her, that's why Teresa called me today. I said, get Matthew in the car, bring him to our house. He refused to go home. That's when she called me and said, I'm here, blah, 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 he's Office Roger. I'm gonna have everybody pick him up from the airport, you go. So I went, felt the same thing you talked about, and asked point blank, were you involved? And it was not a yes or no, it was all answers that really made no sense. And if you talk to them long enough, somebody has, they're gonna get a sense of these paradigms. So, we said, let's go. You're going, Mom's going, with them Ryan, because she picked me up, and I'll drive you and I. She said, Dad, I want to stay here. I said, why? Why would you want to come home? You were going to come home last night. We did. He said, I just want to stay, I got classes, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. But I'm taking the gun. And I went and got it. And said, Dad, possession is possession. I'm the owner. You can't do this to me. My whole life, and I go, give her a flip. I'm taking the gun. You can have bullets, but I'm taking the freaking gun. And it bothered me.
Well, no, he said you should take the bullet too. He told you you should take the bullet too.
I just wanted the gun. I took his bullets. And I can't use them. I was going to make it right. I'm not the one who said I was. What I thought was, well, you're going to take them to yourself. Or somebody else. No, I know you're not. I don't know. That's terrible to think. It's terrible to say. But his mindset was completely.
But you would think if his psychiatrist that he's been seeing every 2 weeks, because we want him to continue to meet with him, you know, because of what happened to Austin. Because he says, you know, we asked him, would you like to continue to go? And he said, yeah, it would be good for me. I mean, well, maybe because he's 22 years old, that he can't tell us anything, I don't know.
I know you said you had that. You have any idea what kind of happens? They.
I don't know.
But you know what color it was?
Black.
Did it look like kind of like what I said? Where you said block? This is, that's not one of the block. Because the other two guys would have blocks. This one was, look at it. This was shaped like this. It was shaped like that same size.
But the holster's not that big.
Okay.
It's just about that wide.
It's okay. I understand that. 88, 99 caliber. I was just curious. So he had the bullets at his house. Yes. Did you ever see the bullets? Yes. Can you describe those to me? They were about 8.
Georgia, I wanted him to, get a fraternity to help him, because he was kind of weak, you know, he was in computer lab at school, and I just thought it would help him socially at Georgia. I just know I'm sitting in this dorm or apartment all day on the computer. So I said, you know, I think it will help you socially, you'll really enjoy it. My daughter went down to the store and loved it. And so I think that was the beginning of the end. Of course, we got in there and started drinking and smoking and Lord only knows what else those guys do. And, you know, I think he started smoking pot. He didn't ever smoke pot before. And the kind of crap that says kids get down, I don't know what's in it, but it's not the kind of pot way I went. And so we started seeing, you know, his grades started plumbing after the first semester, and behavior, yes.
Did he struggle in school this time? Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, he's been struggling, yes.
Yeah, they were doing something at some point, you know, probably therapist at the fraternity house, and it got him way off track. I think he would have been, again, he always has something at night.
And I said, oh, maybe, you know, I don't know.
And if the counselor waving around, people freaked out,
It's paranoid.
he was.
So,
He get arrested.
He get arrested.
He was, he got probation. And he had 2 more months.
well, he got, had to go through the code of conduct for school, because it was on, their fraternity house was on school campus, not off campus. So when they contacted the, fraternity council to tell them what had happened, they in turn contacted school. The school board called me and said, you know, I'm calling to let you know there's an incident at his fraternity house. He is on his way home, and, so we got an attorney to get him back in school, because they wanted to keep him out like 2 semesters, like a whole year. And we just felt like, you know, the kid's never been in trouble. He got so high, he didn't know what he was doing. He needs a second chance, because he's just a great student, great kid.
But it was hard. It was Clark County Police.
Yeah, so I drove him to the police station and turned himself in. Because of the attorney. The attorney, right?
And you think that incident was because he got too high or something?
Yeah.
Strong stuff, or you think that was
I think he was smoking a tremendous amount of pot at that time. And I think that was the beginning of all these episodes. And, we didn't know this, but another episode occurred before that, when he was living in a dorm. They said he was running through the dorm and banged his head against the wall when he was real high one time. And, the people that come to check on what we yeah. But they didn't ever notify us, because they didn't think that they.
Never got there.
Yeah.
I didn't say the same. That he quit smoking because he was on, he had to do weekly work,
We had to.
work every Sunday, went to the police station. So I think it was straight for a period of time, and then once he completed that, I just went back to the old days. We did around like academic probation for that stuff. Yeah. So struggling in school, but still maintaining grades. He wouldn't tell us.
Well.
He's kind of really defiant, right, really.
He
I think he'll go ahead.
He came home, you know, when it happened in the fall of his sophomore year, that's when that happened. Like in October at the fraternity. And so he stayed home through, did he start back to the Oh, yeah, that's when COVID hit, so he had to stay home. He was allowed to go back to school and take classes, but he had to do it online because when COVID hit. So he was home that whole year, and then that summer, and then this, it's his junior year, and so he went back. Well, we got an apartment in April, because he couldn't find any community service in Cobb County for his program. Yeah.
So he was full of scholarship for 2 quarters. Came out of Kennesaw high school with a 4 point something. And went to Georgia and had a 3.6 and a 3.5 and joined the fraternity all down. And my guess is today, he had 1 good quarter. Because we said you gotta straighten up, we're paying a lot of money, and I think this quarter is what we is worse to major.
It was engineering and he switched it to, cognitive science.
Which again is, I don't know, what about science.
It's a new major, I think, at Georgia, but,
It will imagine. I'll be honest with you, we will be testing. We will be testing it. I don't have the results of that right this second, but the process will be, I know.
do you know how many times the people have? Both of them each small one.
You guys know where in the house bodies were?
I talked to the grandparents down the street briefly, and they told me that the authorities told them they were sitting on the sofa. They were found sitting on the sofa.
You know where they were?
I'm assuming that must be their end.
Yeah, war.
I can
tell them that.
You ever tell them what where they were?
All the men.
All I want to know is was he called, yes.
I'm not aware of.
And I know you say that doing strange things. There's something specific that's kind of like a repetitive behavior with him, whether it be your presence or paranoid about a specific thing, or there's something specific. Dictate on.
Dictate on that have a weapon to protect himself, especially since what happened to Austin.
Is this like a everyday thing, or is it kind of comes and goes, or he has good weeks and bad weeks, or as far as whatever's going on with him?
Well, when he came home and he asked to see where the guns were, I was the only one who knew where the key was. And so Daddy said, I don't know where the key is, but I will get Mom to go get it, and I will show you where the guns are, that they're safe, and they're put away, and they'll be here for whenever. And so I always got the key, and, unlocked it. He came in, and he and Scott sat there, and he showed him, that everything was in the safe, and
No, he can't take it. It's locked back up, and over here, we think it's time to do something else. So he's pretty big on protecting himself. Did he ever express anything of why he needed protection? Like a specific threat that he thought was? I think in college there were folks out to get him. And I think it was on the devilish, demonic side of his mind that he was
Well, yes, one day when I was in Athens, he drove me past this temple that he said were devil worshippers. Because he said he was sitting outside one night, and he heard a woman or somebody scream to the top of their lungs. And we said, where do you think that was coming from? He said, I think it's coming from the demonic temple.
It was amazing. He was on the side watch. That's what it was. He drove me to it. I said, are you kidding me? He told me that was when I was in DC. And the next time I saw him, said, tell me where all this happened. And it was 3/8 of a mile from his house. And I said, something doesn't make sense. If you scream as loud as you can at that place, there's no way you're back to your place. So I was that in his mind. He believes things that I don't think would ever have heard from earlier that, for me, three months ago. Did you ever say anything about that house that happened, even before the house that happened? Was there a fixated on their house?
No.
The previous people who lived there?
I mean, you know, when that was all going on with Austin, I would ask him, I would say, do you see any of this that Austin thinks he sees and that's going on? Have you ever seen a flashing lights at Austin? He said, I've seen the light. And he said, you know, I think that one or both of them are messing with Austin. He said, no, I've never seen them in person. He said, but, you know, I think that they are messing with Austin.
So, did Austin have a fixation on that house?
Well, that is,
He was putting things in the mailboxes. He believed that they were going in that bathroom and posing for him and turning the lights on and off and shining the laser in our house. And it's just things that aren't normal, right? And God forbid we did everything we could for Austin, and he had similar issues with the dark side. It's all I can say. But you know, living in the real world. Now I know you said that. You said yes, I saw that. And the lights over there, I think they were messing with Austin and stuff. Did he say anything about that house recently?
no, haven't mentioned the house. Not at all.
Because I purposely, a few months, they sold their house a month after
They sold their house.
lockdown.
Yeah. And the people that moved in,
September.
maybe somewhere around that.
So I made a point to tell him that those people, the old people are gone, and new people are moved in that house. Because Matt handles the light.
He did.
About the previous owners messing with Austin too. Like I said, I was very familiar with what happened with Austin at that house prior to that. This was new to me, so today. And I can tell Matthew was very, you know, we asked him, what happened to your brother in the house? Why did he go over there that one time that their house got come to? I don't know what happened to my brother. He seemed like he's very, like, I don't want to talk about him. But then he would say, yeah, Jason, that's the light, your light down all the time. But then, these are looking at us, what I was concern for us was that, the new residents, and we have flashing Christmas tree. That go on and off, just flashlight. And Austin told us he's out of the backyard, Matt told us he's out of the backyard. He said, that's even light. More sounding from the neighbors.
So he told y'all he was there.
He told us he came to your house. I said, that far away 15 minutes. Took like an hour and a half. interpretation of the license, but we were trying to kind of understand, but, and by that, everybody else had
He was saying that he saw flashing lights in the backyard.
that's all like, working, peripheral.
Well, I was trying to figure out if he was really there, because I said, were there any lights on in the house behind us, if you were here? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, were they on upstairs or downstairs? Because they left, I think, the lights on, they left everything exactly like we found it. And from what I've seen, it's downstairs lights that are on, not the upstairs. And he said, he used that term, those demonic lights are on. And I said, what? And he said, those demonic lights.
This is when you said this, that happened, or
Yes.
after this happened,
Yes,
so he told you, they're part of the demonic.
yes. And I said,
What's the point in telling you about the Christmas lights? No, he didn't tell us about the Christmas lights, I'm telling you that. When we're talking about flashing lights and stuff, the house just happened to have a flashing crash. So that was something we were thinking, like,
He was flashing lights.
we were trying to think,
Inside the house and the flashing Christmas tree.
yeah. And he called it the demonic lights to me. And that's why I didn't believe he was really there. Honestly, God, I just believe he was just not here. I said, Matthew, you came home and you said you came in the house. The dogs were heard you, the dogs were barked, the light, we have one of those lights that automatically comes on when you walk in. The light went on, I'm a very light sleeper. I said, there's no way you were inside our house. And he said, yeah, you're right, I didn't come in the house.
Yeah, I believe him.
So, one minute he tells me one thing and the next minute he tells me another, so I just didn't know what to believe. And that's when I probably said, did you have anything to do with those people?
Did you know he was up in Metro Atlanta?
Oh, I have no idea.
Did you know he was up in Metro Atlanta today?
No.
Did you think he was still in that asset?
Well,
Yeah,
no, he
okay.
was in
I didn't know if he could have come back.
No, I'm not.
Or just, yeah, did you think he was still in that?
Yes, because we said when we left, buddy, if you stay here, you got to go to class. Don't go online, go in person. And he said, I am. So I texted him this morning, because I thought the classes were 11, and said, you up? And he didn't respond. And then I tried calling him, and he just went straight to voicemail. And I thought, oh God, he's still asleep. He did not get up. And so I called him again at some point, and it went straight to voicemail again. And so I told Scott, I said, I guess we need to go back tomorrow and see what the world's going on.
I didn't know sure he called you today.
No. We told him that if he didn't come home last night, just to stay and come home Tuesday when classes were over. But he never said any other negative things about that house. Once that was all over and done, and he said something to me. I can't remember exactly what we're talking about, but he said, no, I don't hold a grudge. Austin didn't hold a grudge. I don't hold a grudge. When I said, did you have anything to do with us people? And he said something like, no, I don't hold a grudge.
And when you were saying, the previous residents don't live here anymore, he was saying that it seemed like he understood that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Definitely.
It wasn't a point in time
newspaper article that the guy had moved out the week before Austin broke in there. So he knew that no one was living there. And then the guy put in the media that the girl had moved out way back in October. And we didn't know that. We thought they were both there that whole time.
So it never seemed like you forgot that you had that conversation and forgot that they.
No.
Everything on that, Rick, that conversation.
I mean, there was a for sale sign on the yard, you know. He knew that, you know, it was for sale. And he knew that the guy had lived down.
He doesn't have a road exit.
No,
So that house in the park.
no harm.
The home.
All here.
Old apartment, that's really nice. Different than them. It's so pretty. That was a turkey.
No.
It's fresh requirement. It was a great kid. Free guy that went to Kennesaw Mountain, right?
Now,
And the freshman, they roomed together. Great kid. He still keeps in touch with him. He has an attorney instead, and he got the commission or the pledge. So I don't think he has much conversation with them. I don't think he has one, right?
I asked him last night, I
Quiet guy, he's a loner. He's not reserved.
said, but he wasn't
I
all
like
right.
me, that's for, you know, but as an adult, we understand more.
But he never, I don't think he ever, got past the fraternity incident. You know, socially, I think that, you know, the fraternity told all the fraternity brothers not having to do with him. And I think, you know, that was a huge,
435 North Church Street. Apartment 4. Apartment 4. Yeah, so, Church Street. Yeah, it's, Adams, 435 North Church Street. Apartment 4. Yeah, he is very orderly. He does his laundry regularly, it's clean, there's not trash everywhere. He used to cook himself some food, he's now gone off on a little different tangent. Don't feel like he's been eating. Doing, awesome Christmas.
yeah. I mean, you know, they were home together for almost 2 years, you know, one day and they come home sophomore year. And, you know, Austin was there, all that time. And then Matthew was home until about April.
Did he take it pretty hard afterwards?
With the all,
Back to that. So, that would be good to sympathize with you. We were trying to understand what that is, mindset was.
yeah,
He was too hard on that for a month, few weeks or a month. That's why every weekend I would go do something. Austin, August, it was August.
he had a breakdown, on the way home from Virginia. We had to go up there and I the body.
We had one last chance to go see Austin and be on before And we're going to do a one-on-one class. He went in the Mercedes first.
That's insane to me.
We hugged him last night, right?
Yeah.
And said, we love you. Get your butt up, go to class, and we'll see you on Friday, because he had class to.
Tuesday, we told them.
That's our Tuesday. But you guys are going to go day now.
I was there from 2:30 until, we'll start, and we'll fly in until 6:15, and then they had to drive there.
I didn't get there until 9, but we left.
9:30, 10, is that right? Yeah, we were home by 11:30.
Yeah.
That was right.
Yeah, they, for some reason, he drove up in his car, left it abandoned on the side of the road.
On the highway?
Well, he was out.
It was off. Got all the street,
Yeah, north side.
north side. Went to north side.
That's it, when it came to east in the morning. Left his car in the middle of the road.
In the middle of
In a lane, and a hero truck now did it abandoned, so they just kind of pushed it over to the side, because it's just in the middle of the road. No, it was, yeah, they ran on that powerful county line. Yeah, yeah, there was a camera, they had some traffic cameras, if they had seen him getting out, kind of making around, and just walked away. And then next thing they find out, I don't remember how far away, down the road, goes into one house, walks out, and goes into another house, which there were people home at the time. They told him, hey, we couldn't get out of our house. Started saying some things that they thought were unusual. He would leave, walk up the stairs, walk upstairs to their house. They called the police, and that's when the whole incident was in. God, he lost his mind. And I don't want to know every specific detail. This is kind of what they were like, just stop your car in the middle of the road. We don't have a guy or, yeah, we don't have a scan from or man, we didn't know this, but we had this, now the hero truck thing is kind of right that way, but, James Spring, obviously, did a certain one on the black Lexus that he had. And when I saw it, they had that Jimmy
So he left the middle of the road locked.
I don't know where he's
I don't know. An officer, I know the car, locked the car, and either headed somewhere else, either, we don't know.
We don't know, yeah, we don't know if there's a mechanical problem or a gas or whatever, like that they accommodate kind of this.
In the first house, did he just walk in?
I don't wanna tell you the wrong thing, I'm not 100% sure, because I'm not doing that investigation. When I was told there was 2 houses he went into, one of them, I know at least one of them was occupied. And the second one, he walked out the stairs, walking around. They were like, what are you doing? I have to get out of here. He starts taking the cover. They call Sandy Springs, their officers show up. He comes down the stairs. His adversity is very kind of cordial and not doing anything unusual. And next thing they pull it out, that officer several times. And then they had one of the other officers over there, pull the car out. And then he shot twice.
Where was he shot?
Took one in the neck, no exactly, one in the head, one in
that did tell them that they thought that someone broke in while people were gone. Because that's what the grandparents told the grandfather, that the army told them that they think somebody broke in while they were gone and were in there and surprised him because he said they were just sitting on the sofa. So I might have told him that. Yeah, I do remember telling him that when it was broken in, the grandfather thought someone was in there waiting.
And he said, no, no lights. And then that would be the next one, a cigarette. You could see the lights, testing the light on the corner of his eye. Which obviously were as fixation of the lights. We asked them a question, they're like, hey, man, when we get your gun, the showcase, you know, national zero showcase in the house, he goes, probably not.
There's probably
Yeah,
not.
probably, and I was like, man, you don't see very confident in that answer. We said something about like, why do you think it would happen to some people? I think they comment like, yeah, well, they could have been so it seemed like he was there enough to not go into specific details, but there was some things that were very fuzzy. There were some camera footage of some working around in their backyard. Some clothing that was to what he's wearing today. We asked him about a specific thing, he goes, oh, those weren't that, they were wearing another. I didn't tell him though. We were like, so he wasn't wearing the same clothes. Well, he was wearing that day, and we go, which way was it? It was the North Face City Corner, or whatever, that's what we were wearing today. So he kind of stays there. And then, we came a little upset because there was a kid in the house. You can tell him kind of, put his head down, took her one pause, stare off.
Yeah, I remember when I told him that they had a child, and he said, were they okay? And I said, yes, they were okay. I said, but, they found him hiding. He was clearly, upset. Because I remember him saying he was okay.
Love to get the house.
Oh, dear God. He should, if it was him, he lost his mind. He lost his mind to go into someone's house and then shrink. And you know that for sure.
That's for sure.
Yes,
He said, officer,
he shrank.
We have a charge with anything that was very specific. But we'll prepare you that it is possible. Keep somebody going. He may possibly go and charge it. You have it outside, several other charges, okay? Like I said, we're still investigating this thing. I just want to prepare you that it is a possibility. From what we've gathered so far, okay?
You'll never go out. We'll put him in jail and he'll come back.
It's crazy.
stopping this video at 10:18:20. You see that both yourself and Detective Stannard exit the interview room. Is that the completion of the interview?
Yes, sir.